Okay, we're going to jump right into this because I don't want to be uploading for another 6 hours on YouTube and making my whole household hate me. The setup. First thing we're going to talk about is our equipment. We're going to be using flares, rocket pods and air radar. The reason being that air radar is crucial to your survival, while rocket pods are your best form of ground attack, and flares in my opinion being better than ECM. Later in the video I'll talk about the big flare vs ECM debacle, but for right now let's focus on the basics in turning. To start with, the most crucial change to fly like some sort of space alien, like the mofos that have been shooting you down, is to go to Options, Key Bindings, Jet, and change pitch up to spacebar. This enables you to do consistent circles while dogfighting without dragging your mouse 6 foot across the table, while still leaving you with the precision of aiming with the mouse when you need it. Once you get used to turning with the spacebar, the next concern is your turn speeds. I've never been able to find hard proof as to the exact speed at which you turn the fastest, but a lot of reports and my experience in flying have shown that somewhere between 305 and 315 works best, while trying to stay as close to 310 as possible. But there's more to it than just going in circles at 310 until you catch up. The better pilots have learned to do loops while remaining at 310, as this helps, as if you are able to do perfect loops while at 310 speed, you can catch people who are doing circles by cutting off their turn. Then there's also the fact that it is a lot harder to main 310 while doing a loop. So if you can manage it, you will more than likely catch any enemy pilots on your tail, as they accidentally over-accelerate or decelerate. To maintain 310 speed in a loop, the key is to accelerate while going up, then at the top of your loop, decelerate as gravity increases your speed. Then as you get to the bottom of your loop, re-accelerate. Use afterburner and de-accelerate to adjust slight mistakes. Flares. The big thing with flares is timing. As long as you use your flares effectively in one or two ways, there's basically nowhere to be shot down by missiles. Preemptively. In our first example, we see me flying at an enemy AA. During these situations, we want to deploy flares just before or as he shoots his missiles, because at this point he should be about to die or run away. Also, preemptively deploying the flares will either break the lock and give you enough time to score the destroy, or distract the missiles as soon as they leave the vehicle. Note that this technique also works for jets flying at you with heat seekers. Timed. In our second example, you see me in a relatively bad spot where I am low in the airspace while receiving a lock-on. At this point, you're in danger of flaring off the first thing and then being relocked and received within a second if you're not careful. In this situation, once I realize I'm in danger, I want to fly straight up in the air and not deploy my flares immediately. Once I get to a ceiling height of about 400 to 450, I can deploy my flares safely, as at this point it will break the stinger off while also breaking off the second lock long enough for me to get to a safe ceiling height of 650 plus before another relock. Evading. A lot of people ask me what to do once they have a jet on their tail. The main thing to remember is that if you got in a situation where enemy jet has managed to get on your tail, you're doing something wrong, and that 90% of the time, good jet pilots will kill you before you're able to evade them at this point. Nevertheless, I find that if you manage to get in one of these situations, the best way to evade is with one of the maneuvers you have been watching me do. Corkscrewing makes you a lot harder to hit, and the idea is that while you're corkscrewing, you're getting down or up to your optimal speed so that you can whip out of the corkscrew into a loop to then hopefully catch the tail of your opponent. Spiral diving is basically the same thing, but there's a window where you give your opponent a good shot if he's in the right spot. Knowing which to do can only come with experience. Understanding air radar. Air radar is a pretty basic tool which I just want to skim on about how to use while in a dogfight. How it works is that when a plane goes high above or below you, he will start to fade out, indicating that he's going out of range of your radar. This is a useful tool to determine the height of your opponent and what he's doing at the time. If you're at a low altitude of 200 for example, and you suddenly see that your opponent you are dogfighting is fading out on your air radar, then it is safe to say that he's climbing high and straight, probably try to get out of lock-on range. This is a great opportunity to shoot him down. Awareness. Awareness is your biggest asset, as it is what defines what you can achieve as a jet pilot. At any one time on a normal large conquest map, you need to be asking yourself, is the AAA up yet? Where are the two jets? Or is either of them coming up soon? And if you're receiving a lock-on, from which direction is it coming from, and whether it's a stinger or something more threatening? Is the lock-on naturally long? Soft land maybe? CITV station from a tank? These are all questions you need to juggle in your head and adapt to the situation at hand. Awareness will also define how you fly. If you're being laser designated, you need to be making sure that you're not flying over the combat zone too long until you can find the problem and deal with it, as dodging javelins and guided missiles takes space to do effectively. Spotting. Spotting is key to you and your team if you're going to achieve any sort of air support. A lot to do with spotting can only be taught by experience, but learning where the hotspots are for vehicles and spotting these first as you look for targets is your best bet. For example, on Caspian border flying on the US side, you know that there is a tank that respawns at E, that the AAA generally hides in the mountains of the RU base, and that the roads leading from the base are hotspot for tanks. Rocket pods, and how to use them. Rocket pods are your key attack element, so knowing how to use them is crucial. After the last patch that affected rocket pods, they act a little bit differently on all the aircraft. The first thing to know is where to aim the reticle when firing. As you can see here on the Hornet, you want to aim slightly below the middle point of the reticle, whereas the flanker shown in the second clip, you still want to aim on the dot. This is the same for rush jets as well. The other key piece of information with rocket pods is that they respond to how your jet is flying. This means that if you're using the rudders a lot and are drifting left or right when firing the pods, they actually won't fly where they're aimed and will drift. Knowing this, when lining up for strafing runs, you want to avoid using the rudders, and once you have found your target, steady your airplane for a second to make sure they fire straight. The cannon. Your main weapon against jets and helicopters. There's not much to explain with this. All that can be said is practice, 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 till you know exactly how much you need to lead your opponent to score the kills. 2 vs 1 dogfights. In this video we have a perfect example of how to handle a 2 vs 1 dogfight. The main thing to remember is that every time you straighten out for a kill, you have an opponent waiting for you to do just that. With this knowledge in mind, you can see me here disable the opponent but not go for the kill, as I'm more concerned about the second Hornet on my tail. So I continued looping until I can get a shot on the second Hornet, and then bag a lucky double kill as the first one explodes with the second. To wrap things up, I just want to talk about a couple things. The first being flares versus ECM. The main reason why I use flares is because they're reliable. I cannot count the amount of times when I have been flying and received a random stinger or heat seeker that wasn't intended for my aircraft, but caught my heat signature as its original target floated off. Flares will save you from this situation, whereas an ECM won't. I know what to expect from my flares, and played right they will never fail me. Secondly, I want to discuss missile dodging. There have been patch notes released stating that in the near future missiles will have better tracking. What this most likely means is that missile dodging will be a thing of the past. That's why I didn't make a feature on it for this tutorial. The videos that have been playing through demonstrate exactly how to dodge missiles, however. It's as simple as flying away from the missile's origin, turning around and afterburning straight back towards it, making it whip around and explode. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I don't believe I left anything of importance out. If you have any questions, please ask, as I'm happy to answer. Also, if you want to help me, please share this or any of my other videos, as I would appreciate it a lot. Also, feel free to subscribe, as I intend to be uploading more in the near future, including a 69-0 jet match, aggressive sniper gameplay, and all updates on jets once the next patch hits. As always, thanks for watching. Cheers.